And there's a guy I watch every night, except Friday, from Fox News, Brit Hume. Good morning, Mr. Hume.
Good morning. How are you?
What is the deal with Friday?
Well, I come in on Sundays for Fox News Sunday,
that's right.
and so I get Fridays off.
Well, how is it we didn't figure that out, Charles?
Well, because we're stupid.
Well, no, I think you might not have been watching.
No, we're watching.
I mean, listen, you should know that everybody on the staff knows now that you guys are watching, and it's a big deal.
Well,
it's like we've been struggling all these years, and now we feel like we've arrived.
Not to patronize you, which you don't need, but I used to get hysterical when Dan Rather, I like Dan, he's a friend of mine, but they would so slant the news and they would so position it that it made me insane, and I would come in the next morning screaming about it. Or ABC did the same thing. Brokaw wasn't quite as guilty of it. And I would scream about the way they wouldn't report both sides of the story. And so then I started watching Fox News long before I had any reason. And I've never seen you guys ever do that. When I'm talking about the opinion shows, that's a different deal. I'm talking about the straight news. I've never called Charles or Lupica or any of my liberal communist friends, and I'm pretty much a liberal. And I've never, ever,
in fact,
seen you guys do that.
I've seen you guys go to lengths to do the opposite, to make certain that both sides were represented.
Well, it's a big part of the mission. It's what we always thought, that if you did both sides, you'd get a more interesting look at things, a different take on it. And it's sort of been, I think, what has driven us over the years.
I mean, do you guys make mistakes sometimes or mislabel a particular candidate?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody does that. I mean, come on. Anyway, they had Osama bin Laden, his picture up on MSNBC with Chris Matthews when they were talking about Senator Obama.
Yeah, well, that was just an innocent.
Of course it was. They didn't do it on purpose. Absolutely not. Anyway, is tomorrow a make it break it for her?
Well, you'd think so. On the other hand, the press scrutiny has begun to mount a little bit on Obama. And if she, does respectably well, I mean, if she gets blown out or, loses decisively in both those states, it's hard to see her, where she goes, because you got, Pennsylvania left, and that's way next month, and it wouldn't be enough to turn it around. Her case that she can still win the nomination would be pretty shaky. On the other hand, if she does pretty well, maybe wins one of the states, or possibly even both of them, I think she's in it for the duration, probably. And I think one of the things that she's hoping is that the scrutiny of Obama by the press begins to get tougher, and who knows what the effect of that will be. He really hasn't experienced that. He's awfully good. I mean, there's no doubt about that. He's awfully good, and he's shown that in the debates. But who knows what happens when the scrutiny intensifies? And there are areas where the scrutiny could hurt him.
Talking with Brit Hume from Fox News. It's 23 till the hour. These phone ads, is she running for president or receptionist?
Well, what I like is she's got a new message, which is you're making a hiring decision. So it's sort of voter as personnel director, as HR person. So you're trying to see who to hire. And now you got the red phone ad. God, we've seen that a lot of times, haven't we?
Going back to Mondale.
Well, going even farther back, it wasn't a phone wasn't used, but do you remember the Jimmy Carter ad when it was a picture of him and the lights on in the White House late at night, and making an important decision all alone in the Oval Office, and all that was designed to make people think that Reagan was a novice and not to be trusted. It didn't work, obviously. I'm not sure the Mondale red phone ad really worked that well against Gary Hart. I think other things undid Gary Hart, but it certainly has been tried. And then George H.W. Bush, in '92, made a speech in which he talked about the phone can ring and so on. So this phone device has a long history.
Was Carter wearing that hideous sweater?
I think he was, actually. I mean, we reprised a little bit yesterday on the air, and it was I was sitting across the room from the monitor, and I couldn't see it that clearly. I was in the studio, but it looked to me like he was sitting in the Oval Office with that sweater on. I think that's probably what ruined the ad.
He's become a great friend of mine. Of course, I was no big Jimmy Carter fan, but it's Hamilton Jordan.
He's a good guy.
Oh, he's a great guy. He helped us. He actually helped us start the Imus Ranch for Kids with Cancer. He was enormously instrumental in that.
Really? I didn't know that.
And he's been out there with a group of his kids from the Sunshine Camp in Atlanta. So, no, he's great. And his wife, Dorothy, they're wonderful people.
He's a good guy.
Let's go back to Senator Obama, then. Has he got a Jewish problem because of this Farrakhan thing? And
well, maybe. I mean, I think, that's a possibility. I mean, that's the kind of thing that might build. My guess is that he'll be able to put that fire out because when he addresses these issues directly, he's very compelling. On the other hand, look at some of these other areas. For example, Obama presents himself as a great advocate of bipartisanship and reaching out to the people who don't agree with you and so on. His Senate record is bereft of his having done that on any really major contentious issue, which is where you need bipartisanship the most and where it's hardest to get. You look at compromise after compromise. You find John McCain in the middle of a whole bunch of them, and he's got the scars all over his body, particularly from the right, to prove it. And you find Barack Obama occasionally paying lip service, as on the immigration bill, for example. He said he was for it and said he would support it and so forth. But when the killer amendments came along from his side of the aisle, he voted for them in a number of instances. And you look at the issue of judges, for example, where you had the Republicans were about to invoke what everybody was calling the nuclear option. Remember that, where you would make filibusters out of order on a judge, and they reached a deal. 14 of them, the so-called Gang of 14, which pretty much guaranteed that filibuster would fail. On the other hand, the nuclear option was off the table. That got a lot of judges confirmed. Obama wrote in his book that he thought the bipartisanship was wonderful, but of course he couldn't support it because it would have gotten too many right-wing judges confirmed. That kind of thing. Now, Hillary is not in a very good position to attack him on that. That issue may not help her, but it shows you that he has vulnerabilities, places where his record doesn't support his rhetoric and so on.
Who do you think is going to win the Democratic nomination?
Well, you never know, and straight-line projections are very dangerous, but you'd have to say that it's much easier to see Obama win this than it is to see her. I mean, a lot of things that are more likely to happen point in his direction than in hers. But that's the thing about this kind of race. It wouldn't take much when you think about it to start raising questions about him. Buyer's remorse can set in. It gets late in the primary season. The spell that he's been able to cast begins to wear off, and the atmosphere could change. I think it's unlikely, but it's possible.
Wonder who Senator Obama, let's say he is a nominee, picked to run with him.
I don't know.
How about McCain?
Well, who would McCain pick?
Yeah.
I don't know. Nobody really knows on that. And you can make a case for a bunch of Southern governors, someone like Haley Barbour, because that would help McCain in the South and so forth. I think McCain will probably win in the South, most places, but that's a possibility. Huckabee's a possibility, I suppose. He has some claim to it. He's the guy with the second most delegates. And he and McCain have waged this gentlemanly campaign through these months, and I think what Huckabee wanted to do was to finally pass Romney in the delegate count.
Of course, the only problem with Huckabee is he's insane. But.
Well, he's pretty talented, though.
Oh, yeah, Charles and I have known him since he was lieutenant governor and weighed 900 pounds. Yeah, we met him in the Little Rock.
Yeah, he was a big unit in those days, wasn't he?
Are you married?
I am indeed.
How long have you been married?
We're coming up on, I guess, our 15th wedding anniversary.
So when these rumors on the internet started circulating about you and Megyn Kelly, how'd that go over at home?
Well, it wasn't true, although I was a little reluctant to tamp them down because I thought it made me look pretty good.
So did I, by the way.
Yeah, I thought, well, geez, if people think that's plausible, I must not be as much of an old goat as I feel like every morning.
Will you be doing the news tonight at 6?
I will.
We'll watch it.
Well, I appreciate it. And tomorrow night we'll be on till all hours, so it'd be nice to think you're out there.
Oh, we are out there. Believe me, we are out there.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
You bet. All the best.
Imus in the morning.